If you were trapped in an elevator during the early stages of a zombie apocalypse, what would you do? I'm going to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat the zombie outbreak in the end. I know I'm not the only one who randomly thinks, what if a zombie apocalypse broke out right now? Walking your dog, taking a shower, stuck in traffic, or trapped in an elevator like Claudio. With zombies trying to worm their way into the half-open elevator, we'll need to figure out how to defend ourselves. Let's see if we can stay above ground. Today is not Claudio's lucky day. Already late for an important meeting, he suddenly finds himself stuck between the 6th and the 7th floors in a stalled out elevator car. Claudio keys the call button to reach maintenance, but when they can't give him a straight answer on when he might be free, he demands a direct line to the team responsible for making the repair. According to the elevator repairman, there's something wrong with one of the generators. Claudio politely informs him that he's a fucking moron for not immediately solving all the world's problems, but something on the roof has him too distracted to reply. Suddenly, the repairman yells at his coworker to run for his life, and the line goes dead. Claudio reports the situation back to the maintenance man, but decides not to mention all the terrified screaming. With maintenance going to check on the issue, Claudio decides to take matters into his own hands. He forces the car gate open to find he's just barely below the 7th floor. Unfortunately, the hoistway door is too stiff to open more than a few inches. Now face to face with freedom, he shouts for help into the adjoining office, but the place seems deserted. Just then, Claudio's wife Lorena calls in a panic. It seems someone is pounding on their front door, but whoever it is won't respond when she calls out to them. She's tried calling the police, but all the emergency lines are down. Claudio tells her to lock herself in their bedroom and promises to send his personal driver, Stefano, over to check things out. Terrified, she begs him to come home, but all he can do is try to keep her calm until he finds a way out of his wood-paneled prison. According to the news, shit is really hitting the fan. The streets of Rome have descended into utter chaos, with various sources citing widespread terrorist attacks. Meanwhile, all Claudio can do is try to maintain his sanity while he waits for help to arrive. From out of nowhere, a crowd of frightened office workers stampedes past the elevator bank. As Claudio tries in vain to get their attention, a woman, Marta, falls down next to him and attempts to crawl inside, only to be violently dragged away by an unseen attacker. Thoroughly freaked the fuck out, Claudio tries peeking out into the hall when a pair of blood-soaked coworkers dive at him. But before they can climb their way inside, the sound of more survivors draws their attention elsewhere. Well, that explains all the screaming. We definitely should have told the maintenance guy about the repairman screaming their lungs out, especially if he's going to go up and check it in person. For all we know, they just saw fucking Godzilla out there, and now the only other person in the building capable of helping us is on his way to get barbecued. I'd probably wait a bit longer before going gorilla arms on the car gate, but at least we know where we are now. Before sticking any part of my body through the gap, I would make sure to hit the emergency stop, just in case this thing randomly decides to come back to life and do us Final Destination style. The whole 7th floor being quiet as a graveyard should be cause for alarm, especially with the repair team freaking out like that. We should call some of our colleagues in the building and ask if they know anything about this, or if they'd be willing to check it out. At the very least, we should ask our assistant to come and bring us some water bottles and Snicker bars in case this thing turns into a sleepover. Some pillows and a blanket couldn't hurt either. Lorena's phone call cranks the severity of this situation from pain in the ass to personal hell. Not only do we need to GTFO to check on our wife, shit popping off citywide could be what's behind all the weird stuff we're dealing with. Even though she said the emergency lines were down, I'd still try calling 113, which is Italy's 911, just in case the issue was somehow localized. If we get through, we should first report the situation back at our house and then request the fire department to try to rescue us from the elevator. I'm not sure why Marta would try and claw her way into the elevator when she clearly had enough time to get back on her feet and haul ass out of there. Besides, if she can squeeze her way in, then who's to say whatever's chasing her couldn't also? At that point, we'd just be an easy double kill. There's no way in a million years Claudio would have predicted it'd be zombies storming the building, but this revelation completely changes the nature of this predicament. The elevator is no longer a prison cell. Well, okay, it definitely still is, but it's also sort of a shark cage against the infected. Our goal should no longer be to find a way out. Instead, we need to take stock of everything we have and sit tight until Chris Redfield shows up to boulder punch every zombie right in the face. As soon as the coast is clear, I try my best to slide the doors closed, although given how hard it was to get them open this far, that's probably not even an option. We should also try to knock out the lights and then tuck ourselves into a corner on the exit side to stay out of sight. As long as the infected don't have a reason to try to get in, they'll probably just stick to chasing people that don't have the luxury of an impenetrable steel box to hide in. We'll also want to preserve our phone battery as much as possible, as we have no way of knowing how long we're gonna be stuck here. I'd send a text to my colleagues, friends, loved ones describing our location and then shut my phone off until I have a reason to use it. Speaking of loved ones, as shitty as it is, there's not much we can do for Lorena besides telling her to barricade herself in the most secure room in her house and find something to arm herself with. Even if we could get out of the office, it sounds like the whole city is just completely fucked. The chances of us making it home unzombified are pretty much zero. It's not glamorous, but our best option is to stay put and wait for help to arrive. That said, it's not like we're trapped in a Walmart. If a couple days pass and there's still no sign the military is about to turn things around, we'll need to find a way out before we're too weak from starvation and delirium to get ourselves to safety. We should formulate a couple escape plans ahead of time and wait until things are quiet to put them into action. The first thing I'd check out is whether there's a hatch on the roof of the elevator that we can climb out of. Unfortunately, on most modern elevators, these hatches are locked from the outside, but it's always worth a shot. Otherwise, I'd rip off the handrail to try and pry the doors open a little bit wider, although this is sure to make a lot of noise, so once we have enough space to crawl out, there's no going back. If Claudio survives this zombie outbreak, he's definitely gonna need some therapy with BetterHelp. Today's video is sponsored by BetterHelp in honor of May, the Mental Health Awareness Month. BetterHelp is the largest online therapy platform worldwide, with affordable access to professional and licensed therapists who are available anytime and anywhere, which means you wouldn't have to cross zombie-filled streets to get the help you need. Seriously, poor mental health can be extremely debilitating. That's why BetterHelp has made getting therapy easy. The process to getting started is simple. You fill out a short questionnaire to help access your needs, get matched with a therapist within 48 hours, and then schedule your first secure online session. You can schedule your online therapy sessions via video, phone, or even live chat sessions, whatever you feel most comfortable with. Additionally, you can message your therapist anytime. BetterHelp has 20,000 therapists with a range of expertise, and you can request a new therapist at the click of a button, anytime with no charge. BetterHelp is also more affordable than traditional therapy. You can use your HSA benefits, and you can also apply for financial aid if you need more assistance. They have over 150 digital worksheets and modules to help support your therapy journey, and you have access to 20+ live weekly interactive group seminars held by expert therapists. BetterHelp is giving you nerds 10% off your first month. Use my link betterhelp.com/nerdexplains, that's better HELP, and get the help you need to beat life, or share BetterHelp with someone who's struggling. Still shitting himself over the close encounter, Claudio gets a call from Stefano, who's caught in traffic on his way to check on Lorena. He takes the opportunity to babble incoherently about crazy people until the call drops at the sound of Stefano crashing. Just then, the custodian comes back over the intercom, claiming the repair team has gone missing. Claudio sounds off with the same unhelpful hysteria until he hears the zombies breaking into the control room. After a few seconds of the intercom goes silent. Much to his relief, Claudio gets a call back from his assistant, Sarah, prompting him to forget all about the undead cannibals prowling around the building and rest his back against the open doors. Almost immediately, a mangled arm wraps around his neck, but Claudio manages to break free without getting infected blood in his mouth. It turns out to be Marta from earlier, only she's not looking so good. Instead of cowering in the corner like last time, he breaks off a nearby handrail and takes her out. Realizing whatever's turning people into mindless killing machines is likely coursing through their veins, Claudio takes a water bottle from his briefcase and washes the blood from his face and hands, and then uses some report papers to soak up the small pool accumulating on the elevator floor. door. The sound of nearby footsteps brings his attention back to the office, where he spots a woman named Sylvia creeping through the hall. Promising to get her out of this nightmare in one piece, he enlists her help in prying open the doors, but the commotion only attracts more infected. Unable to squeeze into the elevator car, Sylvia runs away to find a hiding place. Seconds later, another brain eater takes her place in the doorway, but before Claudio can feed him the handrail, Sylvia tees off at the golf driver and follows up with some rage-fueled love taps. Unfortunately, her triumph is short-lived, as a horde of zombies drawn in by her war cry quickly overpowers her and begins tearing her limb from limb. I get that things are kind of hectic right now, but for fuck's sake, dude, use your words. I doubt we could have done anything to prevent Stefano from wrecking, but we could have at least warned the maintenance guy about the roving packs of man-eaters coming to make him lunch. Now, the only person in the building who knows where we are is Sarah, and I highly doubt she cares about climbing the corporate ladder enough to risk being eaten alive for her dickhead boss. By calling her, we're just wasting battery and needlessly putting her life in danger if she forgot to silence her phone, which she probably did. Once Sarah calls us back, Claudio is extra stupid for putting his back to the open doors like that, especially since two zombies just tried squeezing through less than 5 minutes ago. We've already established that we can't fit through the doors, so unless we're actively trying to pry them open, there is no reason for us to go near them. Props to Claudio for swimming out of that chokehold without getting bit though, as well as using the broken handrail to bash the zombies' brains in. We shouldn't have gotten ourselves in this situation to begin with, but it did serve to teach us some useful things about the infected. 1, they can turn others into more zombies, and 2, they can be killed with normal physical means. While these might seem like no-brainers to your average zombie horror enthusiast, we shouldn't automatically assume this living nightmare was written and directed by George A. Romero. It's only been a few minutes since we saw Marta get dragged off, so it seems the transformation process is fairly rapid. Because of this, we should avoid anyone showing signs of having been attacked, such as deep scratches or bite marks. After neutralizing the threat, we should have given her a couple safety smacks and then searched her pockets for anything useful. It might seem grotesque, but it's the only way we'll be able to access more supplies while trapped in the elevator. I highly doubt she was packing a Desert Eagle .50 under her blouse, but she probably had a cell phone on her that we could use to call emergency services without using up our own phone's battery. I get why Claudio would want to clean the potentially contaminated blood from his face and hands, but this is a very poor use of our limited water supply. We'd be better off using our jacket to wipe away the blood and save the water to drink in the hours or days ahead. That said, killing zombies is messy work, so it'd probably be a good idea to improvise some PPE to keep the blood splatter out of our eyes, nose, ears, and mouth. I'd take my shirt off and fashion it into a face mask whenever I was about to throw down. It's not perfect, but it'll keep blood from accumulating on her face and dripping down into her eyes and mouth. It's nice of Sylvia to try and help, but the fact that Claudio's still alive means he's probably a lot safer in the elevator than sneaking around a zombie-infested building. If I couldn't squeeze in myself, I would just get the hell out of there and send someone to get him later. Coming back to Andrew Ryan, that ugly infected, was cool and all, but also entirely unnecessary. Claudio was perfectly capable of killing that zombie himself, and even if he couldn't, there was no way for it to ever actually get to him. Not sure why she would stand there like a lemon after racking up a single kill. The whole place is fucking crawling with freaks. She should have expected more would be on their way, especially after screaming like a banshee while pounding away at the first one. Claudio tries calling his wife once again. This time, she answers, but the situation is grim. Whoever was beating on their front door has now made it inside the house. He tells her to push their armoire against the bedroom door, but it's not enough to keep the intruders at bay. Yet again, after a few seconds of the call ends. This development only pushes Claudio further towards despair, and when another one of his co-workers happens upon his situation, he only sits and sulks while the newcomer frantically works to try to pry open the doors. After more zombies chase the man away, Claudio decides to take a more proactive approach to combating the infection. He lures a group of biters over to the door and starts wailing away with his improvised weapon, but before he can pile up enough bodies for an insta-kill, some cries for help coming down the hall turns their attention towards easier prey. This time, it's Claudio's assistant, Sarah. She begs for him to help, but all he can do is try to distract them while she runs away. With nowhere left to go, Sarah tries locking herself in a nearby office, but the horde barges in before she can shut the door. Sealing her fate is a human Happy Meal. We just learned with Sylvia that the zombies are attracted to sound, so we should have told Lorena to keep quiet and find some place to hide in case they broke into the room. It's not like we're dealing with detectives here. Just shutting herself in a closet and keeping her mouth shut should be enough to get them off her case. We'd also want to mention bludgeoning them over the head with something solid as a last resort if she were spotted. The new guy looked like he had a little bit more upper body strength than Sylvia did, so it's possible that the two of us might have been able to pry the door open. However, this still doesn't change the fact that we're probably better off waiting inside for help to arrive. I would have told the man it's no use and asked him to go find help. It could also have been useful to trade numbers with him to help us get a sense of what the situation's like on other floors or out on the streets, provided he didn't get nommed the second he walked out of view. I'm all for curing the infection one beating at a time, but we might want to conserve our strength and only kill the zombies that stumble upon us. On the other hand, it would give us a lot more corpses to loot for materials, and if we kill enough, we could pile them into a literal meat shield to keep the others from nosing in, like the human wall the 300 Spartans made. The only downside is that we're probably going to be stuck in here a while, with the intensifying pungent aroma of rotting meat and fruity undertones. Unfortunately, Claudio baiting in a whole bunch of zombies ensured Sarah was pretty much fucked the moment she came around the corner. Had she been able to shut herself inside the office a little faster, she might have been okay, but who knows if there weren't already infected waiting for her inside. With Sarah gone and Lorena presumably dead, we've just run out of people that know where we are. I would try to get a hold of anyone I could in case search parties are formed to look for survivors. That may just be our only ticket out of here. Just when things couldn't possibly get any more foobar, the power goes out, leaving Claudio veiled in darkness as zombies begin to pile up against the door. Suddenly, he hears someone whistle to the zombies before racking a shotgun. An unknown SWAT cop blesses them both with buckshot and steps into view, demanding to know if Claudio was bitten. Claudio explains he's only wearing borrowed blood and asks where the other units are, but the officer, Marcelo, claims he lost contact with the rest of his department. Just then, one of the injured infected randomly reanimates and closes in for a quick bite, but Claudio calls it out before things can get ugly. After dishing out another dose of lead, the officer asks if there's a backup generator that they can use to restore power to the elevator. Claudio tells him about the one on the rooftop mentioned by the repairman and agrees to talk him through the building via radio. Before he departs, Marcelo hands Claudio his Beretta Model 92 FS and instructs him to smoke any biters without hesitation. Claudio guides Marcelo as he blasts his way through the zombie-strewn corridors up to the roof. Eventually, Marcelo reaches the generator and uses the control panel to power up the elevator, but the hoistway doors are still jammed in place. Claudio moves in for a closer look at the mechanism and narrowly avoids getting got in the process. He then picks up Marcelo's pistol and sends his former colleagues back to hell one bullet at a time. There's no time for celebration, as Marcelo suddenly winds up knee-deep in dead himself, following a steady stream of gunshots, F-bombs, and the radio goes silent, and once again, Claudio finds himself all alone. As the sun begins to set, remnants of the building's security team make their way down the hall, but they're too preoccupied fighting off the infected to lend a helping hand. Fearing this may be the end, Claudio decides to take the easy way out, rather than die of thirst or join the undead hordes in their endless quest for man-meat. Just as he's about to paint the wall behind him, a voice from above calls his name. It's Marcelo, evidently having climbed down the elevator shaft. Using the busted handrail, Claudio pries open the roof hatch and helps the officer down into the car. Marcelo returns the favor, turning his 12 gauge on the handful of zombies congregating outside the elevator, but all is not as well as it seems. While making his way back to the 7th floor, Marcelo took a nasty bite to the inside of his leg, and his condition is deteriorating rapidly. Already hacking up blood, he asks his new friend to shoot him in the head before he turns, but Claudio refuses, even disarming him when he tries to do the deed himself. Marcelo begins coughing and retching uncontrollably. He slowly rises to his feet and launches himself at Claudio, causing him to discharge the pistol into his own thigh. Before Marcelo can smash his head in mountain style, Claudio pops him point blank in the abdomen and follows up with a double tap to the forehead. As the adrenaline begins to fade, Claudio becomes aware of the gaping hole in his leg and fashions a half-assed tourniquet using his necktie. Attracted by the noise, another pack of zombies rushes in to investigate. With his pistol now empty, Claudio picks up the 870 and gets to work, but the recoil is more than he can manage. Far be it from me to look a gift horse in the mouth, but why the hell would Marcelo be clearing out random office buildings all by himself? Call it selfish, but if I were him, I'd use my training and equipment to go help my friends and family. Who knows? Maybe the infected murdered his pet rabbit. Given the zombies were only able to pile up outside the elevator, it seems unnecessary for Marcelo to hand over his sidearm like that, especially since he's the one that gets to have all the fun. That short-barreled shotty is not going to hold too many shells, so having a pistol to transition to in a pinch might make all the difference if he runs into a horde. We also have no way of knowing whether Claudio can be trusted not to shoot us in the ass or pull a Dr. Fastbach. Dude literally points the thing right at us as soon as he gets it. If anything, I might have given him a whistle or something to pull some of the zombies his way while I'm fighting my way up to the roof. On the other side of things, Marcelo's unreasonable generosity is a huge win for Team Claudio. We should probably ask him if he has any extra mags for the pistol though. After all, they don't do either of us much good sitting in his mag pouches 3 floors away. The real gem here, however, is the radio. Not only does it allow us to remotely guide Marcelo through the cubicle maze, we can also use it to scan for transmissions from other survivors or even the military. Even if the current plan goes pear-shaped, we might be able to summon another rescue team. Before sending Marcelo off to risk his life and limb in service of someone he barely knows, we should warn him about the 2 repair guys getting attacked on the roof. There's no point in guiding him all the way up there if he's just going to be walking straight into an ambush. It would also be worth trading cell numbers with him in case something happens to either of our radios. Once the power was restored, I would hit the emergency stop once or twice in case it was somehow tripped during the blackout. After almost getting snacked on every time we've gone near the doors up to this point, there's no way I'm spending any amount of time next to them, staring up into the elevator shaft, especially with the radio ringing the dinner bell right next to my head. I admire Claudio's shoot first, ask questions never mindset, but he's pissing away an extremely valuable resource by shooting when there's a perfectly good handrail nearby he could use to bash their fucking brains in. The elevator doors form a perfect death funnel in that they force the attackers to present their most vulnerable parts within stabbing distance. Marcelo's M9 only holds 15 rounds in a standard capacity magazine, and that's assuming he hadn't used it before handing it over. The handrail, on the other hand, only runs out of gas when we do. Now that we know what's causing the elevator doors to stick open, we can use our handy dandy handrail to bust it loose and leave whenever we want. But there's still the question of whether or not that's a good idea. After all, if a heavily armed police officer like Marcelo couldn't shoot his way through the horde, why would things go any better for us? As soon as Marcelo's back at our side, we should be asking him if he was bitten, just like he did to us when we first met. Not only because he's a valuable ally, but because we've seen firsthand an example of a once healthy person joining the ranks of the undead very quickly. Once it's confirmed, we can't exactly stage a quarantine, so as shitty as it is, we should probably oblige his request for a swift death. That said, we don't know for certain how exactly the virus spreads, or whether certain people could be immune to infection. Yeah, right now he looks like 10 pounds of shit in a 5-pound bag, but that doesn't mean he's guaranteed to turn into a zombie. Instead of dropping him on the spot, we should ask him to strip off all of his equipment in case we need it later. We could then handcuff him or put him in the corner to monitor his condition. If he starts looking at us like a meatball sub, then, well, yeah, it's Old Yeller time. Given the circumstance, I would have approached Marcelo with a gun aimed and ready to fire in case he started acting all corpsey. Claudio's extremely lucky his negligent discharge missed the femoral artery. He was definitely in the ballpark there. Applying a tourniquet was the right move, but his necktie is not going to cut it. It would also be worth checking Marcelo's chest rig, as combat tourniquets are fairly standard pieces of kit, especially in a hit-the-fan scenario. The pump-action shotgun certainly has its place in the zombie killing Hall of Fame, but you already know what I'm gonna say. Use the fucking handrail, especially if you're too weak and pathetic to stand up to the recoil of a 12 gauge like a goddamn adult. Sometime later, Claudio awakens to the sound of fully automatic gunfire. He then receives a phone call from an unknown number. Turns out, Lorena was saved by passing soldiers while fleeing their home. With renewed determination, Claudio re-examines the mechanism securing the door and smashes the shit out of it with his broken handrail. Finally able to fit through the exit, he takes the shotgun and makes his escape. After trudging through a shit pile of shot up bodies, Claudio makes his way to the lobby, where he finds a crawler someone made to keep the next wave from spawning. With his 12 gauge empty, he puts it down with a curb stomp, The streets of Rome are completely empty, save for the countless corpses left to bake in the Mediterranean sun. As Claudio marches through the carnage in search of more survivors, he spots an unopened liter of milk in the bloodied hands of a lifeless zombie. But before he can find another one with some Oreos, the cannibal corpse suddenly pops up to repossess the beverage. Claudio cocks back to dish out the dairy when a rifle shot from nowhere splits the shambler's head like an overripe melon. Realizing he's been saved by a military sniper, Claudio waves his arms and calls out to the soldiers watching nearby. If ever there was a time when sitting on your ass and doing nothing was the right call, it's now. We have confirmation that Lorena is safe and sound, and unless the zombies suddenly learned how to operate machine guns, soldiers are in the building taking care of business. Might be time to actually play some of that Raid Shadow Legends everyone's been talking about. Seriously though, we should have started yelling for them to come find us, especially since we're wearing a bullet and likely have a concussion. Besides, if they see us hobbling through the building before we see them, there's a chance they might mistake us for one of the freaks and blow out our spine. Even if they're just passing through, Lorena knows where we are. Eventually, she'll be able to tell someone and send a rescue team. If for some reason we just had to leave the elevator, I would make sure I was bringing along everything of value I could possibly carry. It's gonna feel shitty looting the body of the man who gave his life trying to save you, but his sacrifice would be entirely in vain if we run out of shotgun shells halfway through a horde. It would also be a good idea to slip on his body armor. Every bit of protection helps. Who knows with all the chaos whether zombies aren't the only threats we might face out on the streets. The last thing we need is to survive the fucking apocalypse only to get popped by some asshole looter cruising for a flat screen. There's also no reason for us to hurry out of the building. As long as we're leaving the safety of the elevator, we should quietly poke around the offices for supplies like food and water, or even just to charge our phone. After all, we don't know how long we might be walking before we get to a sanctuary or get picked up by the military. Speaking of which, now would be a great time to get on the radio and try and call in a rescue. Soldiers were just firing within earshot, so they're bound to be within signal range. I'm sure mashing the crawler in the lobby was immensely satisfying, but we should have just left it alone. It wouldn't be worth a shotgun shell if we had one, and stomping it out like that only puts us at risk for infection. Besides, even with our wounded leg, there's no way that thing's gonna catch up to us. Claudio also makes the classic mistake of discarding his shotgun after running out of ammunition. Not only could it still serve as an effective club, 12 gauge is one of the most widely produced cartridges to ever exist. It's not unreasonable to think that we could re-up from an abandoned police car or the body of a fallen officer. Milk was a bad choice, especially when it's been sitting out under the sun for the better part of a day. I get Claudio would probably be thirsty as hell, but just don't. If we just couldn't pass up on some hot sour milk, we should have at least tapped the corpse on the face with the bottom of our shoe before going in for the steal. That way, if it moves at all, we're in prime position to put the boots on it. It's safe to say the sniper knew friend from foe in this situation, but we should probably still wave our arms in the international sign of distress to make sure we don't catch a follow-up shot. I'd keep my mouth shut while doing it though. Waking the dead is the last thing we want to do. When it's all said and done, Claudio managed to fall ass backwards into victory over the undead, but he made a few key mistakes along the way that cost the lives of others. Had he truly taken stock of the situation from the beginning and realized the elevator was probably the only thing keeping him alive, he likely wouldn't have held up poor Sylvia or led Marcello on a suicide mission to restart the power. He also failed to share critical information with others on a number of occasions, failing to inform the maintenance guy of the zombie threat and neglecting to share what he'd learned with Lorena during the home invasion. As for Marta and Sarah, I'm not sure there's anything he could have done for either of them. Wrong place, wrong time, I guess. Ultimately, I think the zombie outbreak from The End was beaten. How would you have beaten The End? Would you have camped out in the elevator or made a go for it on foot? Let me know in the comments. Hit the like button to warn Marcello about the zombies on the roof. And don't forget to subscribe for more impeccably timed apocalypses. Thanks for watching, and remember, handrails don't run out of ammo.